Good afternoon. It's Thursday, May 27th, 2021. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Is the approval for the agenda? Any conflict of interest?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second. Roll call vote?
Aye.
Kyle. Cyber Eye.
Lease aye.
Okay, I'd like to turn the meeting then over to Ron Kennedy.
Hello, folks. Thank you for taking the time today to meet. This is the Harlan Municipal Utility Annual Transmission Revenue Requirement Update Meeting. We're just going to go through the same format that we've been going through for the last few years. So the outline on page 1, we'll talk about the purpose of this meeting, some background points from about Harlan. Talk about the formula rate and its components, and then do a comparison of last year's update to this year's update. And then talk about or open it up to any questions you might have today. So with that being said, again, this is an annual process that we at Harlan Municipal Utilities apply to FERC through a Section 205 filing and has to is required to file every year. So the first thing that is in the requirement is that in May of each year, Harlan needs to update its ATRR and post it to the SPP website. That was posted on April 29th, 2021 this year. And then, I'll pause for a second here if you want to catch up to page 2 now.
Just let me know when to advance.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So, the other thing in the protocols is required is this meeting to enable people to review and discuss any questions they have about the Harlan ATRR. And then, so that's what we'll do this meeting. So then if you advance this next slide, please. These are just a review of the milestone dates as part of the protocols that Harlan has filed. So again, the May 1st is the deadline for the update for the HRR, and May 31st is the update for this meeting. We posted this stuff in May. On June 1st, it'll actually go into the SPP rates in the Upper Missouri pricing zone. July 1st is the deadline for information requests to Harlan, and then August 10th is the deadline for Harlan to respond to these. October 10th is any preliminary challenges have to be made to HMU's ATRR. That's the deadline date. January 15th, we make a filing at FERC. It's kind of just an that were submitted to FERC for any unresolved issues that are still left open during this process. So if you advance the next slide, please. So just, we always cover off with some backgrounds. So any folks that are new to Harlan on the call or in the meeting, that Harlan Municipal Utilities is an Iowa municipal utility located in southwest part of Iowa. Its service territory is the city of Harlan with a population of about 5,400 people, and it provides electric, gas, water, and telecommunication services to the city residents. It's governed by a five-person board of trustees, and Harlan owns approximately 13 and a half miles of 69 kV that we call the Avoca line. That line runs from Avoca, where it's interconnected to the Northwest Iowa Power Cooperative, or NIPCO's transmission system, by the J11 substation. Under the HMU's membership agreement as a transmission owner in SPP, it was fully executed on the 27th of July in the year 2015. Harlan transferred functional control of its transmission facilities that are included in this ATRR, and it was first put into the SPP rates on October 1st, 2015. HMU's formula rate that will calculate this ATR was approved at FERC on September 28, 2015. And the ATRR is included again in the Upper Missouri pricing zone rates, and it was started recovering from that zone in October 1st, 2015. Next slide, please. So go ahead, yeah, go. So Harlan recovers its ATR using what's called the cash flow formula rate. And it's this type of formula rate is typically used by organizations that are financed predominantly with debt and have little or really no equity or proprietary capital in their capital structures. So the ATRR, which is the annual transmission revenue requirement, this dollar amount that we're going to talk about in a minute, is comprised of the transmission O&M expenses related to transmission plant recoverable under the tariff, an allocated portion of A&G and taxes other than income taxes, an allocated portion of the utilities, debts, electric utilities, debt service expenses, so principal and interest, and any allocated bond premium or discount for issuance costs for the electric utility bond. And the important thing in Harlan's ATRR is it also incorporates a fixed margin requirement on that debt service that was applied for and approved by FERC in that September 28, 2015 filing. And that's a 25% margin requirement, which is very valuable to Harlan. So looking at the comparison of the prior years versus this year's, and I hope you can see this chart, the overall annual transmission revenue requirement this year increased by a little over $19,000. And you can see the line by line item variances over previous years. Transmission expenses actually went down, allocated A&G went up. So on net, the total O&M went up about $8,000. The debt service, principal and interest allocated portion went up about $4,000. And the other taxes went up about $4,000. And the margin requirement, you can see, went up about $3,000. So in total, we're about $19,000 higher than we were last year. And if you want to go on to the next slide, if you recall anyone that was been in these previous meetings, in the Upper Missouri pricing zone, SPP had a calculation for something they call point-to-point revenues, and that was they were calculating that incorrectly, and so Harlan was getting more than its share of these point-to-point revenues, and so in the tariff, you can only get your total system costs, which is comprised of point-to-point revenues and zonal revenues. So in this case, you can see on this slide, Harlan's gross ATRR, there's total system revenue requirement is at $268,000. We had about $7,000 in point-to-point revenues. So that means that we're going to collect the balance of it from zonal. So the zonal revenues or the NITS, the network service transmission customers. So the error, what was happening, if you recall, is that these point-to-point revenues were larger than they should have been, and it caused us to over-collect in point-to-point revenues. So the main point I want you to take away from this slide today is that this issue has been resolved at SPP. They're now calculating these things correctly, and this imbalance of over-collection of revenues has kind of flushed itself out of the system. So you can expect that these point-to-point revenues will be consistent around $7,000 a year, unless, of course, new participants come into the zone or something significant changes in the SPP footprint. That's unlikely to happen to such an extent that that $7,000 is going to change. So pretty much the system is working as designed now. I guess it's like I said, it's kind of flushed itself out of its kind of formula. So in any regard, you get that $268,000 in recovered revenue on a monthly basis, so a 12th out of each month. So I want to pause there. I kind of rifled through this thinking that you've probably are all veterans on this now, but are there any questions right now for me? I'm not hearing any. But if you go to the next slide, we have the information. One more, please. That we can email Ken Weber at his email address there on the presentation, the SPP website. for any questions subsequent to today. And then again, going back to the calendar, the next update meeting will be in May of 2022 to review the 2022 ATR update that will be posted on or before May 1st of next year. Somebody's talking, but if you're asking a question, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear anything but the.
No, there was a high question here. Does anybody in the boardroom have questions about the online desk?
No.
Okay, no, there doesn't look like any questions, Ron.
Great. Thanks very much for your time, folks.
All right.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks, Ron.
Okay, then I'd like to ask for a motion to close the annual update meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Taylor, aye. Taylor, aye.
Connie, aye. Pfizer, aye.
Lease, aye.
All right, then during this part of the meeting.
You want to turn this off?
Yeah.
This is Mike, can you hear me?
Yeah.
We're getting a lot of feedback on the dialect. I don't know if it's the same on the phone dialect.
Yeah, I think we just fixed that problem.
Okay.
Yep, we had an extra laptop so we could run that presentation in here.
Okay, that sounds better now, thanks.
Yep.
Okay, so for the regular meeting, we'll go ahead and call that meeting to order. And then approval of agenda and conflict of interest.
Move to approve the agenda?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Taylor, aye. Taylor, aye.
Connie, aye.
Cyber die.
Reese, aye.
All right, then approval of the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda will be enacted by one motion, no separate discussion. The minutes of the May 13th board meeting, abstracts of claims number 1189 in the amount of $649,140.91. And the upcoming board meetings on June 10th, the electronic, and June 24th would be a discussion below on the public attendance. So do I have a motion for that?
So moved. Second.
Roll call vote.
Taylor, aye. Taylor, aye.
Connie, aye.
Cyber die.
Reese, aye.
Next would be the discussion for the public attendance at board meetings to continue our Zoom option. Anybody have?
I think that most places at this point have opened again. I think it's the CDC's guidance, although changes on a day-to-day basis, it seems like, puts us in a position where, at least in the state of Iowa, I think we can reopen. If somebody's not comfortable with that, I'm willing to consider it, but I know that most businesses have reopened, most group settings have been allowed to restart, so I don't see why we need to continue not allowing the public.
Didn't the governor's proclamation kind of dictate that too?
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't absolutely bind us to it, but I feel that, I feel like it's time.
Anybody else?
Just regular open meetings and no Zoom meetings any longer.
Yeah, I think, they can choose to wear a mask or not wear a mask, and
Is there, at some level, is there, without making such a big deal of it, is the technology of the future that maybe we always offer it on Zoom?
One thing we're looking at long-term is to see if we can stream it live on the website.
That would, yeah, if we had that available, that is actually relatively easy technology to do.
I'm not opposed to having it available on Zoom, if it's not too big of a problem. That way people, for one reason or another, need to access it that way it's available.
I think it provides some flexibility for people that maybe have constraints to attending the meeting but would still like to be part of what's going on or hear what's going on, to have that available.
Should we put a time to
Usually
revisit?
the only ones that have called in have been the ones from the city, Todd.
Yeah. But should we put like revisit it, say each quarter or something like that, or leave it for a period of time? Or?
I would just leave it open and.
Yeah, I mean,
we need to revisit. If something changes, we can revisit it, but other than that, I would just leave it open.
Okay.
Technology changes, we'll revisit then.
Okay.
So do we have a motion for that?
So we'll have regular meetings, but in addition, we'll do Zoom.
We'll try to available
Yeah.
on Zoom.
I think that's a service that we should be able to provide at this point.
Just so, because we have to post it on our agenda appropriately, so.
Okay. I'll make that motion, that we open meetings to the public, but continue to broadcast by Zoom.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Carol,
Connie, aye.
Cyber Day.
Re-sign.
All right, then next would be the COVID-19 guidelines regarding mask wearing on the HMU premises.
And this is basically just asking if we want to rescind a lot of the COVID-19 guidelines that we put in place to address the pandemic a year ago, or if we want to continue.
Comments?
Governor's office has pretty much told us we don't need them.
And still optional to wear masks or not wear masks. And I
Yeah,
think
it's
that's
up to
what
the
we-
individual if they want to wear a mask.
I don't think we can require it.
Yep.
I agree, I think people can make that decision on their own and let that decide. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make that motion that we,
Use, right now, it's just mandatory, so
Yeah,
it's just
just-
going back to voluntary.
voluntary wearing of the mask.
Remove the temporary.
Okay.
I'll second.
Roll call vote.
Motion.
Nelda. Connie, aye.
Cyber Day.
Re-sign.
All right. Then the temporary COVID-19 pandemic leave policy, to rescind that.
I think it runs right along the same guidelines, so I will make the motion to rescind that.
I'll second.
Roll call vote.
Carol,
Carol,
Connie, aye.
Cyber Day.
Re-sign.
All right, now then, the bond council engagement agreement for $430,000 water revenue capital loan notes.
This is for bond cancel. This, the $430,000 is related to the design and planning portion of it. And this is for the engagement letter from bond council.
I move to approve the bond council engagement letter.
second.
Roll call vote.
Carol,
Connie, aye.
Cyber Day.
Re-sign.
All right. And now's the time and the place of the public hearing for the authorization of a loan and disbursement agreement and the issuance of notes to evidence the obligation of the city thereunder not to exceed $430,000 water revenue capital loan notes. Have there been any written objections?
No written objections.
Are there any oral objections?
No oral objections.
Time for receiving of objections is closed.
Nobody online objected either.
No online objections as well. Time of receiving objections is closed. Next would be the resolution instituting proceedings to take additional action on the authorization of loan and disbursement agreement and the issuance of to not exceed $430,000 on the water revenue capital loan notes.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Roll call vote.
Carol,
Connie, aye.
Cyber Day.
Re-sign.
All right, next would be Resolution 86-2021, approving the authorizing a form of interim loans and disbursement agreement by and between the City of Harlan and the Iowa Finance Authority, and authorizing and providing for the issuance and securing the payment of $430,000 water revenue capital loan notes anticipation project note, Series 2021, in the City of Harlan, Iowa, under the provisions of the Code of Iowa, and providing for a method of payment of said notes.
A lot of language.
Yeah, I would suggest maybe we kind of explain to our listeners how this is going to work. So the $430,000 is going to be for development and engineering and stuff like that.
Right.
It's 0% interest, and it will be likely repaid from potentially our USDA loan for the entire cost of the project.
Yes. Yeah.
So
So this is an effort to jumpstart the project and get the design and everything going before we're able to close on the USDA's.
Yep. So it won't be another payment we'll make, it will be part of the overall project price.
Any questions about that?
I'll move to approve the resolution.
Again.
again.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Terry, aye.
Say aye.
Connie, aye.
Favorite aye.
Reed, aye.
All right. Then agreement for engineering services with McClure for Harlan Municipal Utilities Pressure Filter number 1 repairs. Harlan, Iowa.
Yes. Pressure filter number 2 was repaired, continues to operate as we hoped it would. Basically clean, no residue, no materials going through the filter like it did before. And so this is an effort to get McClure started to do the same type of remediation on pressure filter number 1. We'll start the activities now from the engineering services side and get everything ready to go. It'll actually end up being paid from fiscal year 2021-2022. So the work and the payments will occur after July 1 in the next fiscal year.
Now, is this putting in that
Fourth
fourth
layer.
layer?
Yes.
Okay.
So why do we have to re-engineer it?
Yeah, I was wondering that, we already did this one, so
We always did
It's part of their engineering package. It has as much to do with just all the engineering documentation and everything. It has to go into the bidding package. So
we can't just pull out the one from before and say it again.
everything has to be signed and done by a licensed engineer before we can bid it, so.
It's the good old Iowa law.
Yeah.
Well, based on that, I'll move to approve it.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Terry, aye.
Sarah, aye.
Connie, aye.
Favorite aye.
Reed, aye.
All right, next would be the annual review of electric policy number 9, Fourth Amendment to lease and agreement for joint use of communication facilities.
Yes, this one, we reset the lease payments after we completed the underground electric conversion project and the fiber project. And electric policy number 9 simply states that we have to review that on an annual basis. So the current lease rate is not going to change. This is just the annual review.
And that's 5,000 something.
5,004 something, I don't have the exact number. Is that on the resolution, Jenny?
Yeah, I think you guys all have the front
Yeah,
page,
it's
but just the first page.
5,400 and something.
Yeah.
We just raised it last year.
Yeah, $5,405.98.
Yep.
Yep.
I move to approve the annual review of that.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Terry, aye.
Sarah, aye.
Connie, aye.
Favorite aye.
Reed, aye.
All right, next is the Mid-American Market Services Agreement, the JOU confirmation letter.
Right. This is basically an annual, and it's, part of this will change as we transition into the power supply management agreement that we approved with Tenaska. We're still in the transition of that, so we want to continue this at least for the next year. We can terminate this with 90 days' notice, but just more or less as a backup as we transition through this process, make sure Tenaska has everything under control and identified they need to do before we release Mid-America from what they're currently doing.
It's what, 1,500 a month?
Yeah. Yep. And part of that 1,500 also covers our joint owner portion on transmission and other stuff as well, so.
I'll move to approve the agreement between Mid-America Market Services. Second.
Roll call vote.
Terry, aye.
Sarah, aye.
Connie, aye.
Favorite aye.
Reed, aye.
All right, then General Policy 109 review, Commission for Marketing Associate.
Yes, basically the proposal is to remove the commission schedule from the marketing associate job description. It had to do with advertising and promotion, and basically our marketing associates primarily are engaged in media and production. So we just believe that at this point in time, it's better to remove that commission. The reason we're doing it now is we're looking to hire a new marketing associate, so we want to get this cleaned up before we hire replacement staff.
Makes sense.
Yep.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Roll call vote.
Terry, aye. Sarah, aye.
Connie, aye.
Favorite aye.
Reed, aye.
All right, then the Calix annual support agreement for a 3-year term in the amount of $10,495 per year.
Yes, the difference on this is we've been renewing this on an annual basis, And so this proposal is for a 3-year renewal at this point in time. Calyx is our equipment we use in NOC, the Network Operations Center. And so this is the annual support. It has gone up a little bit, primarily because we're bumped now into a higher level because of additional new customers that we've taken on over the course of the last year from the last renewal. But the underlying amount was approved in the budget. There's about a $2,000 difference between what previously had been budgeted and what the new rate's going to be.
I'll move to approve the Calyx annual support agreement.
I'll second.
Roll call vote?
Terry, aye. Terry, aye.
Connie, aye.
Cyber aye.
Reese, aye.
Budget amendment for the 2020 and the 2021 fiscal year, the gas fund adjustments due to the February polar vortex, increasing operating revenues by $1,025,000 and increase operating expenses by $1,400,000. And then the water fund adjustment to the water treatment plant remediation and litigation, increase operation expense by $200,000.
Yes. We provided these numbers to the city when they filed their budget amendment for the fiscal year 2020-2021. Most of these numbers, ordinarily, we don't take a formal action, but this year the numbers were significant enough that we thought we should take the formal action as a formal budget amendment.
Okay.
Well, it already happened, so I move to approve the budget amendments.
I'll second. Roll call vote?
Terry, aye.
Terry, aye.
Connie, aye.
Cyber aye.
Reese, aye.
All right, then the lease agreement for single mode dark fiber lease telecommunications service between Iowa Communication Network and Harlan Municipal Utilities and Harlan Community Library.
Yes. This is a lease agreement. It's actually expired last year, but we've been negotiating lease terms with ICN. And this facility actually lies up in a room at the Harlan Community Library. And the last time this agreement was signed, it was signed by the then CEO and the library, the manager, director. And there was no provision in this agreement for the city library. I mean, basically, they provide a room, they pay the utilities for ICN to be there, and there's no provision in the current agreement to compensate the city for that facility or for those utilities. So basically, what we're looking to do, Matt's looked at this agreement, and what we believe is going to be the best thing to do for the city's part is to lay this over until we can revisit this whole city library situation, trying to get some compensation to the city before we formalize this agreement again. So this was something that just came up as we were going through it and had discussions. But I believe this one should be laid over until we resolve the issue with the compensation for the city library.
Okay, so we won't take any action today.
Okay. So that's going to be
It's going to be
on
laid over
hold.
June. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Then the collective bargaining agreement, the 2-year contract effective July 1st of 2021.
Yes. We received notice from the union representative that the union employees had voted to support. Basically, what it provides for is a market adjustment, 3 years in the first year, or I'm sorry, $3 in the first year for the journeyman and $4.50 for the foreman. And then in the second year, again, the same $3 and $4.05 for the electric employees. And then across the board, a 2.5 per year COLA, cost of living, and it would end up being a 2-year agreement. And this did go through the board committee during the negotiating process.
2.5 or 2.25?
Or 2.25, I'm sorry, yeah, 2.25.
LaSalle was on that committee, and I felt like the negotiations were fair and that it worked out quite well. We're satisfied. Terry and I were, as far as the committee went, so.
And we went back and forth.
Yeah, we were a number of times. I think it was important. I might-
That's what anybody's keeping track.
I think by avoiding any further mediation or anything, it probably saved us money in the long run, and I'm satisfied that we came to a reasonable agreement, so.
And we did do both a state and nationwide salary review last fall, and we used that more or less as the basis for what we were proposing to do. And the biggest discrepancy seemed to be on the journeyman lineman side of it, so that's what the market adjustment represents.
I move to approve the agreement as explained.
I'll second.
Roll call vote.
Terry, aye.
Terry, aye.
Connie, aye.
Cyber aye.
Reese, aye.
All right, then, resolution number 1213, honoring the service of Connie Borkowski to the Harlan Municipal Utilities. So,
Do you want to read that to yourself, Connie?
I can read it. Okay. Resolution honoring the service of Connie Borkowski to the Harlan Municipal Utilities. Harlan Municipal Utilities operates under the direction of a 5-member board of trustees selected by the City of Harlan Mayor and affirmed by the City Council. Harlan Municipal Utilities provides electric, gas, water, cable television, internet, and telephone services to the City of Harlan. Whereas a 5-member board of trustees provides vision and guidance to maintain the utility functions for all the citizens of Harlan. Whereas Connie Borkowski is one of the 5-member board of trustees for the past 4.5 years, has ended her term of office effective May 31, 2021. Now be it resolved, the Harlan Municipal Utilities and its customers appreciate the dedication, hard work, and time Connie Borkowski contributed to serving as a trustee the past 4.5 years. Be it further resolved that Connie Borkowski and guests will be permanently invited to the Employee Recognition Banquet in appreciation of her service and dedication to the Harlan Municipal Utilities, employees, and customers. Signed and dated May 25, 2021, presented by David Terrell, Nell Sievert, Terry Arnson, Randall Reese, and Kenneth C. Weber.
Does that say 25 or 27?
It says May 25.
We'll go.
We'll correct that. And we'll probably need to get a still picture at some point or something, won't we?
all right, well, thank you very much.
You're
Oh,
welcome.
wait, we're going to do that right now.
Thanks
Did you
for
want your
serving.
mask
Thank you for your
on?
service. And with that, we should
That's
probably.
all right.
Right, we don't need to approve that?
Oh, yeah, so you want
I move to approve that.
Second.
roll call vote?
Terry, aye. Terry, aye.
I can't really vote. Cyber aye.
Reese, aye.
All right. Next would be the election of officers for the Board of Trustees. Election effective June 1st. And that would be for David Terrell to be the chairperson and Randy Reese to be the vice chairperson.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Terry, aye.
Ryan,
Terry, aye.
Cyber aye.
Reese, aye.
Okay. Now then, information items only?
We don't have any this month.
Wow. And how about the CEO's report?
Okay, a few quick updates. All employee meeting, we had that yesterday, we went over basically everything that was on the agenda for today, so it's always good to touch base with the employees and kind of try to keep up to date on everything. Quick kudos, we had one for Lexi, a customer called, appreciation about taking the information seriously and responding to customers, so kudos to Lexi. And then we had a compliment basically from a customer saying that they were aware that HMU and some of the employees have been taking some heat lately, but she just wanted us to all know that they do appreciate our service and our help and our assistance whenever they call us. So that was for all employees. Service anniversaries, Kyle Travis, he started May 14th of 2018. Eric Rose started May 18th of 2015. Leila Brown started 5/27 of 2008, and Kevin Beeson started 5/28 of 1996. He's been with us 25 years, so we appreciate all of our employees. We try to recognize them on a monthly basis. Just wanted to make mention in at least one, if not two prior board meetings, we talked about changes to the employee handbook, and I just want to let the board know that we are still working on that proposed language regarding the emergency call-outs when people are on vacation. So as soon as we get some language together, we'll be taking that to the admin committee before it would come back to the board. So that's a work in progress. I also want to let everyone know that we have confirmed with Cahoy that they plan to be here the week of June 6th for the air burst and acidization of the first 3 wells. So another week, and then we'll get them in here and get some of that work done. We also just today received a final draft of the water treatment plan risk assessment. If the board recalls, this was something that was mandated by the EPA. It has to be done by June 30th, so we should be able to get this finished ahead of the deadline. We did receive that final version today. I'll get that routed to y'all for your review and any additional questions. Our book power costs for April, $24.79 a megawatt hour. That was down from $31.82 the prior month. Louisa has been operating, and so we've been able to make a little bit of money off that, but our wholesale costs have been very reasonable. We plan to do another kind of a reminder. We've had some rainy weather, and so we didn't run it in the last week or so, but hot weather's not far away. So when this rain spell breaks, we'll probably be running just another reminder press release on the water conservation measures that are still in place. And then we did a all-hands safety reminder for the 2021 National Work Zone Awareness Week. And basically it just focused drive safe, work safe, and save lives. So it basically had to do with driving, being awareness of work zones, and DOT employees and contractor employees working on the streets, that type of thing. We have been monitoring through our trade associations the dark side ransomware that hit the Colonial Pipeline as it applies to other utility infrastructure. So that's kind of an ongoing process there. We do receive regular updates from APPA. We have participated in all of their cybersecurity programs, so they keep us pretty well up to date. And then also I wanted to let the board know, board be aware of the public that we received a letter, communication from Iowa Association of Municipal Utilities. As a group, all of the Iowa municipal natural gas utilities jointly filed a motion with the Office of the Attorney General of Iowa to do an investigation into the polar vortex, to investigate the potential for any price gouging or unfair acts that were involved in that. And just so the public is aware, the latest numbers of the impact, basically all natural gas utilities now were impacted in some way. The municipal utilities now were impacted in the amount of $32.8 million. So it wasn't just HMU that took a hit. One municipal actually spent twice their annual gas budget to come out of that GPA adjustment, or gas purchase during that point in time. And the latest numbers from Mid-America, their impact is in excess of $100 million. Black Hills Energy's impact just in Iowa was $100 million. Their system-wide from Arkansas to Texas was over $800 million. So this was not just a localized event. It basically impacted every natural gas utility throughout the Midwest. So, but we are continuing to file with both the state and the federal as far as any recourse or any kinds of adjustments in that regard. The only other thing I wanted to make the board aware of is that I have been participating with the other minority owners in a review of the status of the Louisa generating plant. We have had a couple of phone calls and updates, and we were notified by the Iowa Utility Board that there will actually, in conjunction with the SPP utilities during the polar vortex, the Iowa Utility Board has now called on all of the investor-owned utilities to release their information and plans on long-term scheduling of their base load. So a lot of the questions and things we were asking with regard to Louisa are now going to be part of an actual formal hearing at the Iowa Utility Board requesting disclosure of long-term plans. But We do have some information, we'll provide that to the electric committee, and then let the committee decide where we want to go with that information, so. And that is all I have, unless anyone has any questions.
Anything else?
Okay.
I just want to thank you all for including me in your board and working together. I really have had a good time on the board and kind of will miss being part of it for the rest of the year. So.
It can be eye-opening.
It can be eye-opening.
Yeah.
Yep.
We
So,
appreciate your work.
Yeah, we do.
great.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, then I guess,
Does anyone online have any questions or anything to say? Mike? Mike unmuted himself, but we can't seem to hear him. Hello?
Okay.
okay, Bill, we're adjourned.
Jenny?
Wait, no. Yes,
Can you hear me?
yes, now we can.
Okay, the star 6 wasn't working to unmute for some reason. It said I was unmuted, so I pulled my earpiece out. Anyway, I just wanted to thank Connie for her service, first of all. So thank you, Connie, for your 4.5 years. And we put out a public notice for anybody who's interested in filling her seat. We did have some interest, and I expect to be making a recommendation to the city council here in the next couple of weeks to fill that seat. So I just want to give you an update on where we were at in that process.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? We're adjourned.